Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And we got our wide receiver position review, the one that we are just so excited about. I'm actually a little inspired by Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft and then him doubling and tripling down on it, like acting like Giants fans are dumb for not wanting a wide receiver. So I think that's a little more inspired. And I think the wide receiver room for the Giants, Justin, is a very, complicated position. Because there's guys we like, at least a couple, and or maybe three, but one's going to be gone. But it's pretty interesting. Justin, how are you doing? And we're going to be 3 episodes next week for the Combine.
Oh, big. Hi, Bobby Skinner. We made the decision that since there's no news going on, that we're going to get back to these positional reviews. And I have to admit, scraping off the dust on Next Gen and Pro Football Reference and looking at some of these advanced stats for these wide receivers, it made me feel whole and it made me feel at home. And it's what I'm comfortable doing and it's what I really like doing. Haven't done it in a while. Then look at Bobby Skinner. He just showed. Say something, Bobby.
Well, I was going to say, it's back to 2 pages of the notes for an episode most people aren't going to listen to. So
no, but that's what makes this show good, and that's what I really like about it. So
you do learn some things in these episodes.
Yeah, really.
This helps us for it put together wow, this is interesting. I didn't look at it from this way. There's a Sterling Shepard stat that's oh my god, even though he's probably not going to be here.
Yeah, and there's something about just these guys in general that I wanna ask you too. But each of these wide receivers I have different and kind of strong opinions on. Each individual one is different, and it's kind of strong about how I feel about their 2021 season. So I'm good. Glad to be doing this kind of episode. Excited for 3 episodes next week with the Combine. We're rolling out a lot of good draft stuff on Talking Football. 2 draft breakdowns a week on that YouTube channel, and Bobby's doing a good job of banging those out. So, feeling good. Let's do this.
All right. Before we get into it, this episode was brought to you by 4 special people. We got Lewis F. Actually, I'm going to call him Louie. If your name is Lewis, I'm calling you Louie. Louie's a good time. Lewis, you're boring. And your Andrew Thomas takes suck. Ricky Williams, the Ricky Williams career was one of the weirdest to ever happen in the NFL. 1 year he's the best running back ever. The next I'm in upstate New York reading a newspaper and he's retired after 4 seasons.
Is this the dude that went up in the mountain and
Yes.
found himself?
Yeah, and smoked a lot of weed.
That's what I meant.
Mike Seddon, he'd been said in that, and then Eric. Now, his last name is spelled Dummann, which is dumb man.
Sure.
It's not even dumb man or Dumont. Justin,
I think it's Dumont.
Who are these Dumases?
I think it's Dumont. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. That's where these wonderful people went for $2 a month. Plus some other tiers if you want. You get to hang out with us and watch shows live. Bobby Skinner will give you some magnets or stickers in the mail once you sign up, and then you got to answer that direct message. And also you have an opportunity to get a free shirt raffle twice a month. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. Thank you to our patrons.
All right, before we get into the wide receiver review, the Giants hired or upgraded Cade Knox, who was working their analytics department, to game management, game day management. His role is with the Giants, which I would assume is kind of like some other teams have done, where it's hey, he's kind of in the ear of the coach, talking about certain situations, fourth down here, go for 2 here, type of stuff like that, which is interesting. I don't go all crazy on those type of things because I think some of those things they do are basic. It's just willingness of the coach buying in, which I thought about after our Jordan Renon's podcast, Justin, when we talked about analytics. Pat Shurmur was a pretty analytically forward coach. The way he went on 4th down, the 2-point conversion thing, he was one of the coaches who would do that. They missed a lot of extra points with Rosas. They would always kick the 2 after that, even if it was the first quarter of the game, second quarter, going for on 2.
The only thing that Pat Shurmur was bad about was running on 2nd and long. That was it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in game management stuff. I remember at that Cardinals game, people were killing him for calling timeouts early. And it was no, this actually ended up buying them more time. I went and did the math on it. #analytics.
I remember that.
But it was where a guy like Joe Judge didn't buy into that stuff. So, are we going to tell you much about this guy? Yes, he was a 6'4" wide receiver out of Harvard. So, and he's a psych major. So our nerds will beat up your nerds in the culture of violence. It is here to stay.
Love it. Yeah, part of my main reaction was, I don't know what this means. I mean, obviously you can pick out what the title is. I don't know what this means for the Giants because, we've gotten excited in the past about, Dave Gettleman even promoted somebody in an analytics department. They did bring on more, they brought on 2 full-time staff members, I think, in the analytics department at the start of this offseason or 2020, whatever. We're thinking, that could mean something. I'm not sure. Let's see it. And then we'll get a story if the Giants win football games. We'll get a story this year from somebody on the beat or a reporter that's like, hey, this is one of the main sources of the Giants' success. These are the people that you don't know that are behind the scenes. I wish we can get more of a job description. I went on his LinkedIn and he literally lists his experiences from everything like dating back to even before like May of 2014. And he went to Harvard in 2016. So he lists things that he had his experience in, like when he was in high school. Every single thing that he has experience in LinkedIn has a little description on the bottom of it saying what he does, except being a football data and innovation analyst with the Giants. That doesn't have any kind of description. So, cool. Use them.
Use them. Yeah, use them. Doesn't mean everything they say is end all be all, but use these guys as a resource. And remember the other analytics guy, Ty C. Remember he was part of the lawsuit against the Giants. Remember he was beating people up in the workplace.
Oh, analytics people beating people up?
Yeah, Ty C. He works in in data innovation. He was beating people up allegedly.
Kind of like
that was alleged. Yeah, we talked. I mean, remember when that lawsuit came out? People were acting like it was the biggest thing in the world, and we were kind of like, no. I mean, I'm fine with Gooch, tackling people in the hallway and. We love we're a pro-violence pod. We encourage that.
It reverses the stereotype that nerds are nerdy and weak.
Yeah, just the guys on Twitter, like Ben Baldwin, like those guys are nerdy and weak, and I would punch in the face.
Our nerds are not.
Yeah, our nerds will beat up your nerds. Let's talk about these wide receivers.
Sure.
And Justin, when you look into these guys' seasons individually, you had some names. Like going into this year, no one felt bad about the wide receiver group. You just paid Kenny Golladay. You brought him in to be that contested catch guy. You drafted Kadarius Toney. Sterling Shepard has been very solid, and especially with Daniel Jones, even over the past 2 seasons. You got a guy like Slayton who's like, if that's your 4th wide receiver, you're feeling good about. But it was a really bad year. I mean, Kenny Golladay had 0 touchdowns. The highest touchdown getter from a wide receiver standpoint was Darius Slayton with 2. There was games where David Sills led the team in reception yards. So to me, this wide receiver room is yeah, but or no, but. Like there's a lot of explaining it. Like when Daniel Jeremiah's tweet being like, well, air raid. It's like, well, there's a lot more to pull back on this Giants wide receiver group. Because I don't think we all, wide receiver room could use help, but I don't think any of us view wide receiver group as a need. In fact, it might be the position group. It might be, if there's one position group I'm excited to watch next year out of the current Giants roster, it's the wide receiver room still.
Yeah, depth is certainly, a question, but there's depth. There's a depth problem. You can make an argument on every single position group on this football team. So, that's not necessarily unique to the wide receiver room. And the yeah, but example is perfect because you look at Kadarius Toney's season and then there's a yeah, but, and we're going to go into that yeah, but. You look at Kenny Golladay's season, there's a yeah, but, and those are at least the 2 main guys. But the rest of the guys like Shepard and Slayton, I'm not really saying yeah, but. I kind of have just reached a point with those guys. But, I have a question for you, just a general question in terms of how teams played our wide receivers and the Giants' offensive system. Can I ask it?
No.
Okay, I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
Why did Giants wide receivers get so much cushion? Do you know what I mean by cushion?
Yes, I know what you mean by cushion. So
wide receiver to defensive back, cushion from where those guys line up at the line of scrimmage. And I was looking at next gen stats like I love to do. And almost every single wide receiver, Slayton, Shep, and Toney. Shep was top 5 in the National Football League and highest amount of cushion that he received from the nearest defender. Why is that with this Giants offense, especially if they're not going deep? Because usually you want to sit back far and wait for that big explosive pass play. Was it a matter of, do you think teams were trying to jump routes because everything is anticipation? That's not what word. anticipation routes, timing routes, where teams are just jumping routes? Why is it that they play so far back?
Because that scared the Giants pre-snap away from testing teams deep.
Okay.
That's in reality. When I talk about Kenny Golladay, it's like, well, all teams had to do was shade the safety to his side, and it basically took Kenny Golladay not even out of the play, but out of the progression. It was a pre-snap offense, so if you're showing cushion, the pre-snap offense isn't going to be about, testing guys deep because, like, oh, well, they're, they got the two high safeties or they're playing their cornerbacks off. That's really what it was, because the Giants under Jason Garrett, when they did go deep the past 2 years. When was it? When they're pressing up Darius Slayton.
Yeah.
And he gets that outside release and they could get those wins. So it was the offense was built on pre-snap reads that if the pre-snap read wasn't to go deep, they didn't go deep, and I think teams knew that. Like that's the way I watch the Giants every game 3-4 times through. But if I was a defense, I would facing Jason Garrett in this offense, like they're not going to test me deep unless I absolutely dare them to. Which is the only times that teams did. Like, look at the Bucks game from 2020. That was the game where Jason Garrett was the most aggressive because they're blitzing the piss out of us and playing press and lining guys up tight.
Yeah, that was just strange looking at those numbers and be like, why is Shep and Kadarius Toney topping the league and most amount of cushion given to that nearest defender there? So, because typically you think of the opposite. Teams that don't stretch the football field, those guys are willing to play press and more physical because they don't respect the team's ability to throw the ball deep. Versus, when teams do throw the ball deep, you want to play back and you want to play prevent. So I thought that was interesting.
Faux show. All right, let's get into the individual guys. I'm going to start with Kenny Golladay. 28 years old, signed the $72 million deal. So it would make no sense to cut him this year. You want to save any money. For 2023, he would have $10.2 million dead cap and then $11.2 in savings. So if he has another bad year, you could get out of the contract, but still a big chunk of dead cap. And then in 2024, it'd be 14.5 savings, 6.8 and dead cap. In 14 games played, he had 37 catches, 521 yards, and 0 touchdowns, and a 48.7% catch rate. All were career lows except for receptions per game, where his rookie season he had 2.5. This year he had 2.6. And I want to talk about his splits with DJ and without DJ and get into all that. But with Jason Garrett, which was every game of Daniel Jones except for one, my question is, why did they sign him? I know people are mad at Kenny Golladay and for him as a player, but I'm mad at Jason Garrett. Why did they sign him if they didn't plan to use him correctly? And we saw that Eagles game, they did use him correctly. He had 7 targets. Every target was justified. He had 2 contested catch opportunities that Daniel Jones put bad ball placement on. He led the team with 3 catches and I think he had 55, 60 yards. So not like a horrible game. He had a drop on one play. Daniel Jones missed him on a glance, skinny post route. Like at 7 targets, which is a good number for Kenny Golladay, every single one was justified, and everyone should have turned into something. You can't. Not every contested catch one is going to turn into something. Like you can ask for 1 out of 2 with those. When Kenny Golladay is that type of player, he's a contested catch on the sideline type player. And like we said when you're talking about the cushion, a safety shading to him totally neutralized him. Not because of him. Or neutralize the offense because, okay, we're not going to throw that ball to Kenny Golladay. We never had this mindset of, let's throw the ball to Kenny Golladay. Let's work on some back shoulder stuff to Kenny Golladay. And if you're doing that, why didn't they run more 3-level reads, Justin? Because now you got a corner deep and a safety deep occupying on Kenny Golladay that leads stuff underneath. But the Giants' offense just wasn't that. So Kenny Golladay had a disappointing year. 0 touchdowns. Insane. When we signed him, if you would have told me that, I would have been blown away. Just blown away. And he deserves some of that criticism because he's not like a guy who's built on separation. But Justin,
but here's the thing. I'm going to stop you
right
right there.
The wrong way.
We knew that. Kenny Golladay was top 2. I think it was top 2, top 3 bad in NFL separation this year, according to the Next Gen. You could check it and it's there. But we knew that. The year in which he was best in 2019. He was also bottom of the barrel. Same thing with Darius Slayton his rookie year too, which is why I think sometimes wide receiver separation, it's kind of an overused stat a little bit. He was bad. And even when he's good, he was bad in that category. So I saw a lot of people this year, well, he's a wide receiver that doesn't get separation. He's never been a wide receiver that got separation. Never. And it took until Jake Fromm, Bobby. Jake Fromm against the Cowboys. An absolute garbage time for Kenny Golladay to get a contested catch opportunity. A legit, I'm not talking about just like a throwaway, a legit contested catch opportunity, 20-plus air yards down the field. And he caught it. And his longest play of 2021 was 36 yards. And that also came against the Cowboys.
With Daniel Jones in 7 games, they had 3 contested catch opportunities. One was a 4th and 10, end of the game versus the Broncos. Like, total throwaway play. Like, if it wasn't 4th and 10, they're not throwing that ball. You know, like, and they shouldn't have with the coverage they had, but, you had to because it was 4th and 10 at the end of the game. So, a throwaway. Versus Washington on the sideline. Good decision, good play. They didn't connect on it. Daniel Jones threw, it was one of those plays where it's like, Daniel Jones threw a good, accurate ball, but it's like, maybe take a little off of that, let Kenny Golladay adjust and make that play, And then the other one was with Freddie Kitchens versus the Eagles. After they fired Jason Garrett and Freddie Kitchens. So in 7 games, they had 3 chances to do, 3 opportunities where they did that. And didn't convert on any. And again, like, defenses, could you imagine, like, a defensive coordinator can be like, I'd be like, why did they sign this guy? Because he's not what these numbers show.
It was literally like they were playing Madden, and, okay, we're just going to sign the wide receiver with the best overall this offseason, and then just put him in whatever offense, whatever playbook you have selected in Madden. Like, that's legitimately what it felt like. Yeah,
it made no sense to sign this guy if this is what you're going to do. Now, if you didn't do this and played to his strengths, which I hope this next, Brian Dable does, I still don't, like, I'm kind of glad Kenny Golladay is on this team still and locked up for a couple years, Like, we love that signing. I'm not going to go back and do revisionist history and say, how could the Giants do it? The signing made sense. But when it doesn't make sense is the way that they used him. Like, it's so frustrating the way that they use this guy. Where they just didn't use him in these contested catch situations on the sideline.
How much of it do you also put it on quarterback play? And this is something we talked about during the regular season too. But I almost put it 60-40. 60 system, 40 quarterback.
The Eagles game with Freddie Kitchens, that was a game where it's like quarterback, like those 2 contested throws. But I put it mostly on system because he caught 60.5% of his catches with Daniel Jones, which was the second best in his career. Only to 2020 where he only played 4 games where it was 62.5%.
Yeah, and now once the season ended, it's 48 point something percent.
Yeah, 48.7%. So with Daniel Jones, like, and he was having some good games. Like, they were reeling off some good games. And then the offense just fell apart, and they weren't, the Tampa game, they didn't target him, even though there was, but the Tampa game, there was a time where Daniel Jones should have hit him for a touchdown, and he didn't hit him. So obviously quarterback comes into this, but it is mostly system for Kenny Golladay in particular. Yeah. It really is. Like, Kadarius Toney, he worked in the system, even though the system sucks. Sterling Shepard works in the system, even though the system sucks. Kenny Golladay doesn't. Like, it was unreal. And we know from Kenny, like, we know this on good authority, Kenny Golladay hated Jason Garrett. Like, hated him. Like, was very happy that he was fired. Like, made it clear that after that Week 2 Thursday Night Football game, which, they were 4 days into being in an NFL season, he's like, no, I was yelling at Jason Garrett. Like, he did not like Jason Garrett. We know that on good authority that Kenny Golladay hated Jason Garrett. And it's frustrating the way this last year went with him. When Daniel Jones went down, okay, all bets are off on everything. But it's just so frustrating the way this guy used him. Like, so I don't go into this year coming off of the 0 touchdowns, the bad yards, bad catch rate with Kenny Golladay, and like, I still feel the same about him that I did going into the season. Like, are your feelings on Kenny Golladay that you had going into the season different than you do going into 2022?
I mean, also, how much did injury play an impact on it? Because the 2 games.
I don't think much.
The 2-game span of the Atlanta and the Saints game. I mean, that's the good sample size that we have of Kenny Golladay, and his catch rate over those 2 games were 82.85%. He was average, so the catch rate was high, but he also was averaging 17.67 yards per catch over that 2-game span too. And I was thinking to myself, especially after that Saints game, I'm like, Kenny Golladay hasn't even been unleashed yet. He hasn't even been like fully unleashed where you're getting those contested catch opportunities on the sideline deep from that, 15, 20 air yards. So we were really feeling good at that point. and how much did injuries really come into effect? Because there were times, and this is both a Golladay and Toney problem, where are you healthy or are you not? Because this coaching staff, this Judge coaching staff, one of the things that really bothered me is it's third down and they're not on the field. It's a second and long and they're not on the field. You're either healthy and you're playing, or you're not healthy and you should be sitting.
I think KG played pretty healthy for most of the season. Like there was like the Atlanta game, he was a little banged up. But I think for the most part of the season, Kenny Golladay was pretty healthy. You know, there wasn't really anything on the field that showed like this guy isn't, like he's not. Yeah, was he banged up? Yes, but I didn't think there was any. Was there any game where Kenny Golladay played and like he shouldn't be playing right now?
I don't know. That's the thing.
Atlanta was the only one he was close to missing, and
but he played well.
That he played in, and like he looked fine in that game. Like he trucked a dude in that game.
Yeah, 4 catches, 64 yards that game. So that's the only thing with me with Golladay is, can you get through a season? And even if you're playing, are you at your 100%? Because I feel like a guy that doesn't breed that separation and you're relying on that contested catch, you know, you kind of need to be at that peak. You need to be really rolling. And can the quarterback, and can whatever quarterback we have, it's probably going to be most likely going to be Daniel Jones. Can those guys create enough of a connection where Jones can trust Kenny Golladay that he can put the ball in different angles, different slots, different areas, different parts of his body, and he's going to come down with that catch?
They're going to force him to try. They're going to force him to try at least. You know, and look at the splits with the, you know, I didn't put the Cowboys game in because he left halfway through. With DJ, 7 games, 23 catches, 372 yards, a 16.5% catch rate, 16 yards per catch. Not great yards, but like great numbers, but like you're not like being like, oh, Kenny Golladay sucks. And then without DJ, 6 full games, 14 catches, 149 yards, a 40% catch rate, and 10.6 yards per catch. So, like I go into 2022 feeling the same way about Kenny Golladay that I did going into 2021. Really, the only difference is that now the team is rebuilding, where last year the team was going for it. So it's like, okay, well now you have a huge contract on the books and on a year you're rebuilding. Like that's the only difference. But just Kenny Golladay as a player, as a weapon on the offense, I feel the same about him.
Well, I mean, because we're a rebuilding team, they should be relying on him more. The fact that this is a guy on your football team that you do have and he is established, you know, versus a team that's, you know, quote unquote competing, going for it, maybe is not relying on him as much because they have other pieces. Shep is going to be gone. You know, Slayton is not a guy that can be relied upon. Kadarius Toney, you know, TBD, we'll see. Kenny Golladay needs to be a guy that on a rebuilding team with a quarterback that is trying to prove himself and then going forward with a new quarterback, Kenny Golladay should be a guy that is relied upon and is used as a wide receiver 1. Like, he should be an advantage, and he's just not, and he was not.
Let's talk about Kadarius Toney next. Hoops fans, the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is too good to pass up. I'm talking between the legs. 3 City, Windmill Good. New customers can bet just $1 on any team to get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. Simple man radio simple. DraftKings, which Justin skips every week. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also bet on the NBA with same game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. Money. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Whatever. I do what I want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code JOMBOY. That's Jom, not like John Boat, like Jom, JOMBOY. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code JOMBOY at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and physically present in New York. Eligibility restrictions apply. Minimum $5 deposit. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full details. Gambling problem? Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Oh, so fun. All right, Justin, you ready to talk about Kadarius Toney?
Yes.
I
have a question. One word. How are you feeling about Kadarius Toney heading into this offseason and therefore headed into next season? One word. One word exercise.
We talking football player or just like the whole Kadarius Toney experience?
Everything. My word is apprehensive.
Mine is excited.
Let's talk about it.
Which, when you put those together, it makes cautiously optimistic. Which would be 2 words, which would have been a better exercise.
Put a hyphen in its one word.
How about that? Kadarius Toney, round 1, pick 20, part of the Bears trade down. Justin, here's what I want to say before we get into Kadarius Toney. He's a good player.
Yeah.
He's a good player. Like, when he's on the football field, he is a good player. And it took the Giants too long to realize that, even though they drafted the damn kid. But he is a good player. But, he wasn't on the field enough. He wasn't on the field enough, Justin. He missed 7 games this season. And 3 of them, they didn't use him to start the season, in reality. Like, the Denver game, they didn't use, besides a handful of snaps. The Washington game, they put him, they actually made him a part of the play on one rep. And then the Atlanta game, he played played maybe 50% of the snaps, and that was when the wide receiver room was screwed up. Colin Johnson played more reps than him. Like, they didn't want to use him to start the damn season.
Didn't have a single game where he had over 80% of the snaps, and there were 3 games where he had over 60% of the snaps. So I was thinking while I was looking at the snap share numbers, I'm like, that was a criticism that Joe Judge and Giants offense, Giants coaching staff didn't get enough. The fact that these guys were just not on the football field when they were designated as active.
In 10 games, he had 39 catches, 420 yards, 0 touchdowns. Had a 68.4% catch rate, 10.8 yards per catch. In the 7 games where he was involved, so let's take away those first 3 games. He had 35 catches, 406 yards, and a 67% catch rate. 58 yards per game. That's really good for a rookie. Really good. And that includes the Rams game where he had 3 catches for 36 yards on 6 total snaps. Like he was going to go off in that game. Coming off the Dallas game where he had all those yards, he was going to go off. He's electric. He's fast. He's a good route runner, but he's got work to do as a route runner as well. I don't know. Like you said, it's a hard player to talk about because it's the biggest because he's hurt. And and then he had the COVID stuff, and we talked about it on the Renan podcast, missing OTAs for no reason. Just all this random stuff that showed up. And then the media's some clown stuff. Like, the Giants were very frustrated with Kadarius Toney. Like, after that Washington game, week 2, there was some real conversations about Kadarius Toney. Like, the franchise, the organization was very frustrated with Kadarius Toney as a person. Now, it smoothed out. There's little bumps in the road. People got mad at him for his Henry Ruggs tweet and then, some other stuff with the media.
Yeah.
But
who cares?
When he's on the field, he's a really, really good player. Like, 100% worth the 20th pick. And I'm going to go through an exercise with you about the draft after you talk about him. But he's a really good player. And if he's healthy, he's the player I'm the most excited about for the Giants offense under Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka.
Yep.
He should ball. If he's on the field, let's hope these injuries were fluke, but if he's on the field, he is a flat-out baller, and he's going to be a star in New York. He's a star. He's not as good as Odell, but he's a star. He's that good.
Yeah, he needs to lead the team in catches next year, and he needs to be that quote-unquote security blanket for Daniel Jones, but he's a lot more than a security blanket. We gave Sterling Shepard the security blanket designation, high catch rate, you move the chains every once in a while, you keep the drive sustained. You stay on schedule. I love that phrase, staying on schedule. Kadarius Toney's not a stay-on-schedule player. He's let's take the top off without taking the top off. Let's get some explosive plays. Let's move the chains without, hey, we're going to give you the ball, 5 yards before the catch, right? But then you're going to get 8-9 yards after the catch. And there was a 3-game stretch, Bobby, 8.5, 8.5, and 8.9 yards after the catch per reception from the Atlanta to the Dallas game. So Atlanta, New Orleans, Dallas. Those were the 3 yards after the catch per reception numbers that he had during those 3 games. He was a difference maker, 100%. Toney was 11th in the NFL this year in yards after the catch per reception over expectation with plus 1.6. So basically, on average, Kadarius Toney added 1.6 yards per catch more than what he was expected to do. And he was 11th, Bobby, when if you look at his overall season and you look at his game logs and the advanced game logs, really outside of those 3 games, the Atlanta, New Orleans, and Dallas, there's not really a game where you're like overly impressed with what Kadarius Toney does with the ball in his hands because he barely had any opportunity to get the ball in his hands to begin with. And he was still 11th in the NFL this year, and he did have enough catches and targets to qualify to be in that ranking. Next Giants wide receiver ranked in that category was Kenny Golladay and Evan Ingram with both minus 0.2 yards after the catch per reception per expectation. He also ranked towards the top of the league, even though I think this is a little overrated. Toney ranked in the top of the league in wide receiver separation, but also he was one of those wide receivers that had a pretty big cushion as well.
And you can use him in so many ways. You can use him outside. You can use him in the slot. You can, like you said, you can use him as a security blanket on drag routes. You can use him as a distraction. You can use him on those deep posts, on those verticals. You can use him over, like the ways you can use Kadarius Toney is limitless. Really, the only thing that Kadarius Toney's never going to be good at is contested catches. Like, he'll never be good at contested catches.
He was 5 for 9 with contested catches this year.
He did have some, I guess. But
Dallas.
But he's never going to be like a throw the ball up, go get it type player.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's going to beat you with speed. So
on the top of your head, how many drops did he have?
3.
1.
1. I'm trying to remember what game it was because it was the Saints game. He had a big drop.
It was early in the season. Yeah,
it was the Saints game. He had a really big drop. I think it was on 3rd down too. So yeah, good catch. I mean, he didn't have any drops his last year at Florida, so drops aren't an issue for Kadarius.
Nope.
He's just a wow player, and you can use him in so many ways. Like, and bringing Mike Kafka over from the Chiefs and making those Tyreek Hill comparisons, like that should excite you. That should excite you in the ways they can use this guy if healthy. If healthy.
Yeah. Big thing with him, and, frankly, I won't just put it on him. I'll also put it on Golladay, too. I don't care what the reason is. If you miss camp, it's bad. Be in camp. Be a part of the spring. Take advantage. The Giants this year are going to have to take advantage since there's going to be so much that's different. There's probably going to be a lot of new players that are coming in. It's going to be big for this draft class. This is the big, arguably one of the biggest draft classes in franchise history that we have coming up this year. What the Giants do in this draft. Take advantage of the time that you're going to have, the extended time that you're going to have in training camp, and with the new coaching staff.
Yeah, show up
at camp. Yes, I don't care what the reason is for you miss this. Again, this goes. I'm not just putting Toney in this boat. This is going to Golladay too. You gotta be there, because I also think that is one of the reasons why. System was bad. But if you had time with the system, Kyle Rudolph is showing up week 1. All right, I'm ready to go. Kenny Golladay showing up. All right, I'm ready to go. Kadarius Toney showing up. All right, I'm ready to go. And they didn't have all that month of August together. You got to be there. Do it.
There was 12 first-round picks after Kadarius Toney.
Sure.
Kwity Paye. Kadarius Toney or Kwity Paye? Who do you want?
Kadarius Toney.
Caleb Farley, the cornerback for the Titans. I'd rather have Toney. Christian Darrisaw. This might be the one that people say, but Darrisaw didn't play overly well for the Vikings.
No, and also we have depth with D tackle. So
no, he's the offensive tackle.
Sorry, Christian Darrisaw is.
You're thinking of Christian Barmore.
There you go.
Najee Harris, running back. Travis Etienne, running back. Greg Newsome, the cornerback for the Browns. We don't know how good a cornerback is, so if a Browns fan says yes, then okay. Rashad Bateman. This is the one that people will say yes. Bateman was just as injured, essentially, as Kadarius Toney. And in a functioning offense, he averaged 2 more yards per game than Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
Toney can do more than Rashad Bateman can on the field. Peyton Turner, yes. Eric Stokes, the Green Bay corner. I think he played really well. That might be one where, especially now that we have Wink Martindale, a guy who can play some man coverage. Yes. Gregory Rousseau. I still take Toney over him. Odafe Owe out of the Ravens. I'm not sure how his season went. Joe Tryon from the... You can at least make the argument that Kadarius Toney is a better pick than all of those guys.
And I would still rather have the 2 draft picks this year versus the 1 last year.
Exactly.
Because Giants have 2 draft picks this year. If the Giants stand pat at, where were they picking, 11 last year? If they stand pat at 11 last year, Joe Shane only has the number 5 pick, then we're possibly trading back in this year's draft And then you're not getting a Neal, you're not getting an Aquanu, you're not getting a top tier edge rusher that's coming at 5.
They turned the 11th pick into the 7th pick, the 20th pick, a 3rd round pick, and a 5th round pick they used to trade up to get Aaron Robinson.
Yeah.
The
I'm
trade
for that.
Was one of, if not the best things that Dave Gettleman ever did. And who they draft doesn't change that, this year. Draft the player you pick with the draft pick, it was the right decision. Anyways. I mean, they literally moved up 4 spots, if you think about it. They went from 11 to 7 this year. And then you got the 20. So, Tony. All right. First, Justin, before we get into the next segment, I know you're like, oh, maybe Wally wants me to read the ad. I don't. You know what it's time? It's time to play that damn ass Giant Stories music.
I don't know if we can play the music anymore.
Play the freaking music. Play the damn music. Giant Stories, where we look at the New York Giants Instagram stories and see what interests us. Antonio Williams, he was like me at Daytona. Blake Martinez and Caden Smith went to a Rangers game, and then Blake Martinez went to Disney. John Ross also was at Disney, but I think the California one, and he was at an arcade with his kids. Seems like a good dad. Sandro Platzgummer, he's back in Austria. Corey Cunningham was at a rodeo, and his 6'7", 311-pound ass was on a horse. Raymond Johnson was at a Georgia Southern basketball game. Austin Johnson was at an Arizona State, Oregon State basketball. Darius Slayton went to In-N-Out and said, overrated. Will Hernandez was watching Big Lebowski, and Julian Love has picked up playing the piano as a hobby this offseason. Justin, what piques your interest?
Can I be honest?
Go for it.
I wasn't listening.
Antonio Williams went to Daytona. Blake Martinez, Caden Smith were at a Rangers game. Blake Martinez went to Disney as well. John Ross went to Disney in California and is in an arcade. Sandro Platzner was back in Austria. Corey Cunningham went on the rodeo, and he rode a horse at 6'7", 311 pounds. Raymond Johnson went to a Georgia Southern basketball game. Austin Johnson, Arizona State, Oregon State basketball game. Darius Slayton went to In-N-Out and said, overrated.
Wow.
Will Hernandez was watching Big Lebowski, and Julian Love sing us a song. He's the piano man. He picked up playing the piano as a hobby this offseason.
Can you explain why Simple Man Radio was tweeting about Will Hernandez?
I literally just, I was thinking about, free agency and stuff, and, I wanted to tweet from Talking Giants, would you franchise Will Hernandez? Just be like, I just want to get a reaction. I'm bored. And I was like, I'm not going to do that because it's as much as I know what's going to happen, it's going to annoy me when it happens. So I did it from Simple Man Radio, and the same exact thing happened. People explaining to me, no, you can't franchise tag Will Hernandez.
Really? I thought that was, in the works, giving a guard who's bad, $7 million for 1 year. I thought that was in the works.
Franchise, when you're cap stricken. He was watching Big Lebowski, which we do have Talking Giants Big Lebowski stickers, which is cool.
Yes, wait. Right here.
That's Trailer Park
Boys. Trailer Park Boys.
Dope.
Wrong one.
I'm not going to get up and get them. Darius Slayton said, have you had In-N-Out before?
I really thought I had that sticker. I don't think so.
It's only in California. So everyone I know that's been to California and has had Five Guys, they all say Five Guys is better.
I have a weird relationship with Five Guys because funny. I call it myself. I'm allergic to peanuts, I think. And I've had it before, and I feel a little something in my throat, and then I have to stop.
It's the Five Guys.
Yeah, but I have Five Guys in my throat.
All right. Sandro's
throat.
Back in Austria.
Good for him. Happy for him. Wonder if how many Sound of Music jokes that he gets.
Probably none. John Ross seems like a good dad.
Are we going to talk about John Ross in this wide receiver?
We are. Okay. Very quickly. Yeah, that was kind of, Corey Cunningham getting on a horse is kind of nuts. And then I think he has horses though too. He's a country boy.
He's bigger than the horses.
Yeah.
I found that to be funny because usually when people are on horses, it's hey, look at me. I'm on a horse. The horse is obviously much bigger.
Yeah, it's his feet are touching the ground almost.
Yes. It's insane.
It is insane. All right, Justin, let's get back into the wide receiver review. Next on the list is Sterling Shepard. And we don't have to spend a lot of time on him because I think we all think he might be gone, even though he is rehabbing at the Giants organization. And it's like, man, this is going to be awkward if they do cut him in a couple weeks. He's 29 years old, the longest tenured player on the New York Giants. The longest tenured. In 7 games, he had 36 catches, 366 yards, 1 touchdown on a 68% catch rate, 52 yards per game, which was the team's best and as far as yards per game. Here's the issue. He had the injury at the end of the year. It's going to be a long road of recovery for Sterling Shepard. And you save $4.5 million cap space if you cut him. But there's still $8 million dead cap, which is kind of frustrating. And then in 2023, if they waited, they would save $9.5 and then $4 million dead cap. But there's $2 million added on both those years because they restructured him in September. So that's pretty frustrating to the Giants were in that situation. So here's something, we talked about Sterling Shepard a lot coming into this season. Like him and Daniel Jones' connection was real. 80% catch rate. But this year's like Shep only played 7 games. 5 of those with Daniel Jones. 2 of those games with Daniel Jones, he played like less than 40% of the snaps. So I went and looked at the 3 games where he played the full game with Daniel Jones. 26 catches, 283 yards, 1 touchdown on a 75% catch rate. That's 8.5 catches for 94 yards per game. He was balling. He was balling when they had Daniel Jones on this offense. Like
he was the main reason why the offense was moving and operating the first quarter of the season. Like when we were talking about, hey, this Giants offense, they're producing a lot of yards, but they're still not producing a lot of points. And especially that Washington game, like Kenny Golladay was the secondary piece. Like we talked about how he had a solid start to the season. He still was the secondary piece. And Sterling Shepard having, at one point, Bobby, it was a 90% catch rate. Can't remember after, what game it was after. But the first couple weeks of the season, that catch rate was 90% Sterling Shepard had. He was the main reason why the Giants offense was somewhat functioning.
Yeah, Denver he balled, Washington he balled, and then got hurt versus the Falcons, came back versus the Rams, had 10 catches for 80 yards in that game, then got hurt. I think, again, maybe against the Chiefs. I
remember him being there, yeah.
I think he got hurt during the Chiefs. But either way, he didn't play. I don't know, but there was another game with Daniel Jones where he didn't play a lot.
But that's the main problem. That's the main problem.
He had 2 games with, the Fromm, Glennon era.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the thing with Shep. He was the one player coming into the year. It's like you just gotta factor injuries into the equation. Yeah, and now you add his first very serious, major, like long recovery ahead of you injury. It's time to move on from Shep. If he didn't have that injury, I think it's actually a tough decision. I do, but he had that major injury, and it's time to move on from Sterling Shepard, even though he's been playing the best football of his career.
Yeah, in our PPPs, we usually like to say you can't predict injuries, He was the one player where it's like, you got to kind of pencil him in to miss 5 games. And this time, what's 18 minus 7? 11. Yeah, missed 11. And really, the one note that I have on Sterling Shepard in my document...
Kind of missed 13. He only, they got hurt mid-game, like early in those games, too.
Yeah. So the one note that I have in this document, really on Sterling Shepard, and I could talk a lot about Shep, but it's 7 games. That's the one thing. That is really the one thing. Because I've talked for years, and when I first came on this show, and the off season leading up to my first regular season on the show, so it was 2020. Yeah. So the 2020 season, I'm giving Sterling Shepard Steve Smith comparisons, and that was kind of valid because 2 guys with high catch rates and 2 guys that are reliable on third down, security blankets. They move the chains methodically, but they also struggle with injuries and they get hurt. Now, Steve Smith has a 100-catch season that's on his resume. Sterling Shepard does not have that. So that's the difference between those 2 guys. But Shep did play that role for Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, young in his career. Steve Smith played it for Eli. Shep played it for Daniel Jones. Obviously, just the results weren't as good as it was with Smith.
Yeah, we talked about it being but like he has the most damning butt. It's like he just gets hurt every single year, and now he's coming off of a major injury where he probably won't. We don't even know if he's gonna be ready to start the season, and even then, he probably won't be the same. So it's time to move off from Sterling Shepard. This is this will be his last season in the 20s. This upcoming season, it's time to move off, and you got to clear some cap space anyway. So he went from maybe the toughest one to the easiest one. because he's the one where like the dead cap versus cap savings isn't as outstanding as you would want, but the injury kind of, I feel like it makes it easy.
Yeah.
Even though like he was on McKinney's Instagram Live, they're all in the building rehabbing. I was like, man, it's gotta suck cutting players, especially like players like Shep, who again has been the longest tenured New York Giants. So I don't think Giants fans have anything bad to say about Sterling Shepard.
No, I think it's the opposite. I think they only have good things to say about Sterling Shepard. And he only deserves only good things to be said about him.
Next on the list, this was, I think, the most disappointing guy in the group by far. Darius Slayton, 25 years old. He's in the last year of his contract, and because of the playing time he's gotten as a late-round pick, his $2.5 million cap hit, which you can, or it's 2.6, and then if you cut him, you save $2.5 million. In 13 games, he had 26 catches, 339 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 44% catch rate. That's 26 yards per game. This was just a bad year overall for Slayton. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Like, it was a bad year. He had 3 games. We had 0 catches and 0 yards. And this is coming off of his rookie season where he had 48 catches, 740 yards, 8 touchdowns. His second year, which we thought was disappointing, which we would have like craved for the way the Giants offense was, he had 50 catches, 751 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I mean, he just disappeared in the games that he was needed. Just totally disappeared. Really, the only time he had an impact, like a really good impact, was in the beginning of the season when, the teams were shading over to Kenny Golladay and they would press up on Darius Slayton. They would audible Slayton to, that outside release go, and Jones was putting the ball. And we had those 2 deep, the deep one first, the Broncos, the touchdown versus Washington, and then he had the drop on the touchdown on that deep post versus Washington as well. And then it just totally fell off. I mean, he had 6 drops, which was really bad. He just was a bad player. Like, even if you look at his splits with Daniel Jones, like, they were definitely a lot better than his overall. But in 8 games, he had 19 catches, 267 yards, and a touchdown, and a 51% catch rate. Like, he was just bad all year. And it's been such a weird career for Darius Slayton to just go from a 5th-round pick who was missed essentially all of training camp, missed the first 2 games, and just be thrown on the scene and like, bam, you're the best wide receiver on the team. And to get the second year where it's like, oh, he's not a wide receiver 1, but still a good player, put up 750 yards, he can be a deep threat. And then this year where it was just flat out pitiful for Darius Slayton.
Yeah, I don't think Darius Slayton is a wide receiver that's going to provide you anything except catching the football, whether he's running in a straight line, whether he's, running in the middle of his route. Like, he's not going to be a guy that's going to create a lot of separation. He's not going to be the guy that's going to create a lot of it's going to create a lot of yards after the catch per reception. He has to be a player that's kind of developed around scheme, and that's what it was in 2019. Big play Slay. It was a legit thing. He was 5th worst in the National Football League this year in yards after the catch per reception. He had 6 drops the last 2 years, so 6 drops in 2020, 6 drops in 2021. The only difference is that he was targeted a lot less this year, so his drop rate was 10%. So 1 out of every 10 times that Darius Slayton was being targeted this year, he dropped at one of those passes. So it's not good. It's not good. Darius Slayton is, like, for a 4th wide receiver and for a 5th-round pick, I still consider Darius Slayton to be a success. The fact that he's still on the team and the fact that he probably does still have a role, but it can't be as a wide receiver 3. I think it has to be as a wide receiver 4. Like, he's fine.
Yeah. So what if they're going to have to clear cap space? He's one that you can cut with no dead cap. What they cut him? What's your reaction?
What are you free?
$2.5 million is cap space.
Oh boy. Now knowing that it's $2.5 million, my thing is you're still gonna have to bring somebody else in. That's also the thing. Or you can't just go about this offseason, and I've been trying not to do this myself. Like, O'Shane makes sense to cut him now. It's just south of $1 million, but still, it makes sense. You're gonna be adding more edge guys, and you already still have some edge guys on this team. But Slayton, like, if you're going to be cutting Shep and you already have Toney and Golladay on the team that are injury prone to begin with, what other wide receivers are really on this football team?
I agree.
So I think I think it makes sense to keep Darius Slayton.
Yeah, it's just we make those arguments for a lot of guys, and then it's like, where are they going to get this $40 million cap space?
Yeah, I mean, but also you're going to have to bring somebody else in to be a wide receiver.
And can I just say, I know the Giants don't want to restructure, and I know this is a bigger conversation. Why not restructure a little bit? Like, I think they have like $90 million worth of cap next year. Why not restructure a couple guys?
Well, I think Kenny Golladay and Leonard Williams are the two guys that they should definitely restructure. That would require extending, but they should.
No, you could just push it into. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, just a really disappointing year for Darius Slayton. But guess what, Darius? Expectations have never been lower, so you can exceed them this season. Like, yeah. He had 3 games with 0 catches, 0 yards. In games where he was needed too. Like,
and games where he was like healthy for most of the season. Whereas 2020, I'm like, remember that Washington 40-yard catch that he had against Washington at home, and he got hurt and he pulled up on his ankle. And I'm thinking to myself, I wouldn't be surprised if Darius Slayton got like off-season surgery or something on his ankle. I don't think he did, but I don't like Darius Slayton wasn't right this year. I mean, he was there, he was out there, it just didn't do anything.
So frustrating for Slayton. All right, there's 5 more guys we're gonna go through real quick, but you're gonna read the ad first.
Yes, Bobby Skinner. Can I get a round of applause?
The listeners did.
Oh, the listeners did it? Thanks a lot. Well, I'm gonna celebrate today. I'm excited to announce Manscaped, they've launched the Ultra Premium Collection. Believe it or not, it's for your not-so-private parts. So, head up north, because Manscaped is going to take care of you past your ball sack. I'm talking about a leveled-up hygiene routine with your favorite manly scent. This is an all-in-one skin and hair kit routine for the everyday man and covers you from head to toe, literally. Manscaped is trusted below the waist, but now trust them with the rest, too. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off with free shipping when you use the promo code GIANTS. So here's what you can get in the Ultra Premium Collection. Manscaped Premium Deodorant, Hydrating Body Spray, Body Wash, 2-in-1 Shampoo and Conditioner, plus a free gift, a 3-pack set of lip balm that's made with ingredients such as vitamin E, peppermint, and Justin doesn't have his glasses on, fancy oil to keep those chappers feeling moist. So I want you to get that Ultra Premium Collection hot off the shelves. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code GIANTS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code GIANTS at manscaped.com. The power of attraction is now in a bottle thanks to Manscaped. I'm looking forward to using the chapstick because my lips get dry very easily.
Great. All right. John Ross, 10 games played, 1-year deal, 11 catches, 224 yards, 1 touchdown, 20 yards per catch. Successful signing or not?
Yes.
Yeah. Got some big plays. He even moved the chains on some games.
Every time that John Ross was targeted, I said that worked, and I was happy with it.
And when I did
the
Daniel Jones deep ball passing thread, like, you know, that Cowboys game, there was 2 deep attempts to John Ross. Like, those could have, Daniel Jones put a better ball on them. Those could have been completed. Next on the list.
Hold on. Arguably the best play of the season, best touchdown of the season, was that 50-yarder against the Saints. And that was like into double coverage where that was thrown.
Yeah, that 50-yard catch that was totally underthrown by Daniel Jones in the Chiefs game. Like, Ross did what his job was, and he didn't have the drops.
If we had a better functioning system, I think he could have had a much better season.
Literally for all these guys. Except for maybe the next guy, I don't know. But I will say, Colin Johnson had career worst in every single category.
Wow.
And that's the guy who played with the Jaguars the year before.
Join the party.
11 catches, 105 yards. Here's what I'll say on Colin Johnson. Remember when he had 5 catches for 51 yards versus the Falcons? You're like, wow, did they find a player in this guy? And he was the first person to address the media after a game where a lot of Giants fans were threatening to burn down the stadium, and they were booing John Merritt at Eli Manning's press conference. Remember when they did that?
Fun.
That's my memory of Colin Johnson. Is that that Falcons game? I will be remembered for booing John Merritt. People literally telling him to kill himself, which was crazy. And Colin Johnson, like, are we gonna start having Colin Johnson takes going forward?
Mm-hmm.
He had 11 catches for 105 yards, career lows. Yeah, he did much better with Mike Glennon in the Jaguars. It's almost like the entire Giants offensive system was broken, and their offensive line sucked. Dante Pettis, this is an interesting one. Got hurt again. In 2 games where he played, he played like less than 60%. There's 2 games where he actually played. There's 1 game where he had like 2 reps. He had in those games he had a combined less than 60% of the snaps, but he was part of the offense. He had 10 catches, 87 yards, a touchdown, a 62% catch rate. He did all right towards the end of the season in 2020. Dante Pettis is my early favorite for a wide receiver 5 in training camp. Actually, no, he's coming off injury.
Yeah, I was like, is he even here?
Yeah, I don't know. But I like him more than Colin Johnson.
Yeah. Faster.
I mean, think about how much playing time he got, and he had 1 less catch than John Ross.
Yeah.
Next on the list, Pharaoh Cooper. I didn't even write down his stats. He sucks.
Oh, wow.
He's a horrible wide receiver.
He
didn't catch that kickoff. He sucks. Anything on Pharaoh Cooper?
Fun name.
David Sills got his first catch of his NFL career. 2 catches, 17 yards. He was the team's leading receiver versus the Chicago Bears. How about that?
Wow. He had a bad drop.
People, yeah, he did. It was actually versus the Panthers he had that bad drop, which it was like, just that his first game being active in the NFL. But he's still on the team, and he has another offseason of following Daniel Jones around the country. Do you think How do you think Sills Army behaves during training camp?
I don't want to even think about that. I was on the Raymond Johnson training camp. The boat trip pic was one of my favorite pictures that emerged during the season, that they took a trip. I don't know when it was.
It wasn't in the season.
It had to be in the season?
Or it was, or no, I meant before the season, or at the very latest, the Arizona trip, which I don't think that's when it was.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. What rivers are there in Arizona that you could put a boat on?
I'm sure there's lakes.
The rivers between us.
I'm pretty sure it was the off season.
David Sills was
the Arizona off season trip, I think, is when it was. Actually, no, Kenny Golladay wasn't at that.
David Sills just hanging with KG, Shep, Barkley was there? Question mark? No,
I don't think he was.
Just hanging with the
Sills. Guess who was at the Joe Judge going away party? Maybe 5 players. David Sills was one of them.
He was being coached up. So during the Massachusetts trip, there was, and I remember having this observation on the live stream. Sills was really being coached up by Judge, and Judge didn't coach up a lot of individual players, but Sills was one of those guys. I think Judge was talking to him about how he carries the football.
Seemed like every time I saw Joe Judge coaching someone individually, it was about how they carried the football. There's a Kelvin Benjamin clip in my head. Seriously, Kadarius Toney, that was his big, this is the way.
It's very important if they catch the football.
Yeah. All right, that's an episode. Again, 3 episodes next week. Monday is going to be the Daniel Jones year in review. Wednesday will be some reacting to Joe Shane and Brian Dable pressers with Zach Rosenblatt as well. And then Friday will be some Combine wrap-up. But we'll be talking Combine. We're going to be covering the Combine on social media and everything, posting stuff. Justin, I have this question for you. I've been meaning to ask you. You know how I post some All-22 college clips on Twitter? Should I start posting those on Instagram as well?
Yeah, I think we gotta start just doing talking football social stuff.
We got to get someone to help us with that. Maybe, we have a new paid intern, right? Can I say that on the show?
Yeah. It's official.
Julian Bright, he's the guy who went to me at the Bucks game, does really good work. The Trailer Park Boys, the cigarette in the mouth, sticker that we have, and we had it as a shirt for 30 minutes only. He created that on his own. So Julian's been doing a lot of good work behind the scenes for us, and now he's officially with John Boy Media. How about that? No more under the table stuff. Bam. All right. So go follow him on Twitter. What's his Twitter handle?
I got it.
He's a really good photographer too. He's going to be you're going to be seeing Julian this offseason.
We're not going to be able to keep him down. Julian M. Bright. Bright is common spelling.
Yeah, he's going to you'll be seeing him this offseason. He's going to be involved in some stuff. So, how about that? All right, so that's an episode. We will see you guys on Monday for Combine Week, baby. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Enjoy your weekend, people. Until then, let's go Big Blue.